3546. Canto 3, Chapter 5, text number 46. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Anena te devakata sudhaya. Pravridha bhaktya vasadashayaye. Vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham. Yatajasan viryur akundha dishnyam. Panena te deva kata sudhaya. Pravridha bhaktya vashadashayaye. Vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham. Yatanjasan viryu akunta dishnyam. Ready? Anena te deve. Varidha bhaktya vashadashayaye. Anena te deva kata sudhaya. Varidha bhaktya vashadashayaye. Vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham. Tanjasami Panena, by drinking. Te, of you. Deva, O Lord. Ta, topics. Sudhaya, of the nectar. Pravridha, highly enlightened. Bhaktya, by devotional service. Vishadha ashaya, with a greatly serious attitude. Yea, those who. Vairagya saram, the entire purport of renunciation. Pratilabhya, achieving. Bodham, intelligence. Yata, as much as. Anjasa, quickly. Anviryuhu, achieve. Akunta dishnyam, like Kuntaloka in the spiritual sky. Translation, O Lord, persons who, because of their serious attitude, Vishada ashaya, because of their serious attitude, attain the stage of enlightened devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge, and attain the Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky simply by drinking the nectar of pure topics. Oh, pretty simple. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The difference between the impersonalistic mental speculators and the pure devotees of the Lord is that the former pass through a miserable understanding of the absolute truth at every stage, whereas the devotees enter the kingdom of all pleasures, even from the beginning of their attempt. The devotee has only to hear about devotional activities, which are as simple as anything in ordinary life, and he also acts very simply, whereas the mental speculator has to pass through a jugglery of words, which are partially facts and partially a make-show, for the maintenance of an artificial, impersonal status. In spite of his strenuous efforts to attain perfect knowledge, the impersonalist attains merging into the impersonal oneness of the Brahmajyoti of the Lord, which is also attained by the enemies of the Lord, simply because of their being killed by him. The devotees, however, attain to the highest stage of knowledge and renunciation and achieve the Vaikuntha Lokas, the planets in the spiritual sky. The impersonalist attains only the sky and does not achieve any tangible transcendental bliss, whereas the devotee attains to the planets where real spiritual life prevails. With a serious attitude, that's twice in the purport, there's a little qualifier, isn't it? With a serious attitude, the devotee throws away all achievements like so much dust, and he accepts only devotional service, the transcendental culmination. Not a difficult choice if you have good fortune of association with Srimad Bhagavatam and a proper rendering of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The choice is not so difficult. However, the reaching the Vaikuntha Loka sounds like mechanical, but it's not mechanical. So the operative word, one of the operative words here is Vishada Ashaya. Asha means desire. Vishada Ashaya, with a greatly serious attitude. What does a greatly serious attitude look like? Greatly serious attitude, in simple terms, is Krishna is my shelter, and I have no other shelter. Because one can take Krishna as my shelter, and I have a whole bunch of other shelters. Krishna is my shelter. It's exclusive. So the serious attitude takes a while to refine it. Why? Because we're accustomed to other shelters, and other shelters means asha, a desire for that which is influenced by false ego. That which is influenced by false ego is a misconception of self. In the Sunday evening, the one class that was allowed, or the time permitted, was describe a little bit more about false ego. So, in short, before we even get a body, before we even get anything other than anything, just contact the material energy, we're covered by false ego. And then comes the rest. False ego mixes with the modes, and then when false ego mixes with the modes are dormant. Karma is also dormant in the susupti state, but once time energy mixes, then karma starts, because you need time to do and receive the results of what you do. So then karma starts to become activated, and the modes of nature become activated through contact with living entity and contact with dawn. And so then we start getting the ingredients for creation, and then Brahma puts them together with the help of various demigods. And then so here we go. And so since time immemorial, living entities have that program, propensity. And nihilism, or eradicating the false ego, where does that leave you? Well, it's negation, but there isn't positive. How long can the negation last? Guru Krishna Param Padam Patantyada. There are Vaishnava scholars, or ISKCON Vaishnava scholars, that argue that you can't fall from Brahmajyoti. And they give you this and that and the other reason. Explaining that verse is they think themselves liberated, but they're not really liberated. But then it becomes, what's the definition of liberation? And the Bhagavatam's definition of liberation, listen to Prabhupada's lectures and you'll hear what it says. Muktir hitvanyata rupam svarupena vyavastati. Mukti is where one has one's spiritual form, svarup. When one's spiritual form has become manifested, and in that spiritual form, one engages in activities of devotion. That's what mukti is. Mukti, hitanyata rupam svarupena yavastati. So those that enter into the Brahmajyoti, they haven't achieved liberation. The scriptural logic goes, of course, Prabhupada gives a somewhat different picture consistently. That's okay. His picture is, yes, one can enter the Brahmajyoti, but one can fall from the Brahmajyoti because there's no real happiness. We want happiness. The material condition is that what's difficult for us to overcome is with the material conception of what happiness is, we're seeking happiness through fruitive activities. Or we're frustrated with the fruitive activities and the fact that it isn't happiness, it's something else, it's dukkha. And so let me chuck it. And then comes karma sannyas. How do you get free from karma? You just give up karma. What do? You just exist. Excuse me, but it's impermanent. Just exist. So, thinking that I just exist, so aham brahmasmi, there's no ananda, because ananda comes from connection with the Paramananda. And without connection with Paramananda, the Ananda of Brahman is a negation of material misery. Mukti, by this kind of definition, that not this process, it's not this, it's not this. So Ananda is it's not this. And when I realize it's not this, what's the positive? I am Brahman. So it's Brahmananda. Cessation of the material condition. Cessation of material condition doesn't bring ananda. It brings its negation, but it doesn't bring ananda. And moreover, it doesn't bring chit, or full consciousness of who am I, because all I know is I am Brahman. I don't know lots of other things. So the bhakti, back to the verse, the bhakti process gives both the vairagya, complete, the meaning of renunciation, and Prabhupada is translating it, or in his purport explaining complete renunciation, and knowledge. But that's, what this verse is saying. Let's go back to Canto 1, Chapter 2. Vairagya Vijayanija Bhakti Yoga. No, excuse me, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vairagya Vijayanija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartam Ekam Purusha Puranam. So the Vasudevi Bhagavati, you know the verse? Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So knowledge and vairagya, haituki, causelessly awaken, because it's of the soul, it's already there. But how do you get there? It's of the soul, but how do you get there? By the bhakti process, Vasudevi Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga. So this is the process that is taught by Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the process that's taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam are identical. Say it either way. This is the teachings of that the teaching of this. They're identical teachings. And therefore, as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And here it is, where the advocacy is a very simple process, and the contrast doesn't have the same attraction. Very simple process is hearing of the nectar of his topic, the Lord's topic. There it is. Vairagya Saram. The Saram, the essence, Prabhupada is the word for word, the purport of renunciation. By drinking tanena, the topics, the ta, that are full of nectar. So that the happiness, knowledge, so jnana and vairagya, they're there. This, so the essence is awakening of our attraction for Krishna. Problem. Attraction for Krishna has a big cloud hanging over it. What's the big cloud? It's our attraction for finding happiness elsewhere, or fruitive activities and speculation. Happiness of speculation. Not a real happiness, but some people are attracted, and that's their happiness. The Vedic process entails two things. Vaishnava process, but ultimately, in a broader sense, the Vedic process is cleansing away the covering and awakening that which is dormant. So it comes down to a fundamental, what's dormant? So it's nice to identify the covering and recognize the tendencies that come through the covering, and the tendencies of the covering are awarded to the living entity because of desire. So cleansing of the covering and awakening of the dormant. And therefore it's a very fundamental and important issue. I'm pausing because of late I've had some dialogue with some devotees on this topic. Is bhakti something that's bestowed? Have you ever wondered this verse? Here's the verse. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi by Bhakti Lata Beach. Anyone not know that verse? It's a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The living entity is wandering throughout the universe. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona. And of those living entities that are wandering throughout the universe, someone may become fortunate. Bhagyavan, one who possesses bhagya, the recipient of good fortune. Bhagyavan Jeev. And that Bhagyavan, good fortune, Guru Krishna Prasadi by Bhakti Lata Beach. So, with that verse, it may seem, it's one of the verses, that it may seem the living entity doesn't have bhakti within, but it's bestowed. It is true that bhakti is bestowed. We teach that. It's our understanding. Without association of one who's carrying bhakti, one isn't going to manifest bhakti. But then what about the flip side? The flip side is there, the answer to this question is yes. Is there bhakti inherent within the jiva? Or is it only something that's bestowed? Or is it both? You follow the question? And the answer is it's both. Because both are spoken and both are true. Like a seed has the characteristics of the tree or plant from which the seed came, but it's stored, latent, dormant. There's a soul within. The soul isn't just a spark, it's the potential of whatever the seed is. So similarly, there's the seed within, and the seed is awakened. It's a combination of bestowal of mercy and that which is inherent, and awakening that which is inherent. The combination. Okay, so back to the topic here. How is that which is inherent, this potential to enter into the Vaikuntha realm, not just by negation of the material, but connection with the spiritual, eternal variety of activities in the spiritual world? It's inherent that's awakened by this very simple process. Hearing with a serious attitude, by the way, because of their serious attitude. Vishada Ashaya. The entire purport of renunciation, that's letting go of the covering, and awakening of knowledge take place. And when those combination of the covering is removed and the awakening of who we really are is restored, then the natural, from regulative to natural process of relationship with the Supreme becomes fulfilled. The maturing stage of bhakti. It's a devotional process, it's not a mechanical process. However, when the devotional process is with a serious attitude applied, then that which is dormant becomes awakened, and the path to Vaikuntha is opened, and one can enjoy transcendental enjoyment, not the material kind, transcendental enjoyment of a life of eternal service, because it's within us, but dormant. So it's in a capsule. This is a nice verse, giving the sadhana and the sadhya of bhakti. Nice. Short, sweet. See if there's some discussion. Yes. You just speak and he'll fix it. Go ahead, speak into the mic and he'll giggle and get it working.
When I consider myself, it's pretty not so serious. And yet I might see, others may look at me and have told me in just last couple of days, you're very serious in your Krishna consciousness. And then my appreciation is that um, I wouldn't know what serious means unless we had role models of great souls in our lives. And then I was thinking, as you were speaking, that, in our movement, and certainly in my life too, is we see that, when Prabhupada started the movement, the seriousness with which people took up bhakti, just gave up everything and followed Prabhupada. At the same time, over time, some slackened in their seriousness. So, how do we, how do we ensure that we keep this seriousness going? Yeah, yeah.
his advocacy was everything, always. And that's the serious adherent. So, back to your question, will that is that sufficient to be an antidote for complacency? It's not a guarantee, but it's necessary in any case. But it's exercising our bhakti muscle when doing what we do, because otherwise we can keep doing what we do and it becomes complacency, spiritual complacency. And then once there's spiritual complacency, then one can start veering off the road and not even know that you're doing it and not feeling uncomfortable doing it and so forth. So say the same thing in a different way. The bhakti process is not a mechanical process, not a vending machine. It's a devotional process, and we need to, so response to your question, continue to invest in the bhakti element of our life, consciously, purposefully, regularly, if not consistently. Pause, reflect. Why am I doing this? What's the purpose? Which is another one of the keys from yesterday, is having a goal. But it's not a mechanical goal, it's a devotional goal. And so the quality of that goal and our investing in the goal needs to be bhakti laden. In Bhakti Vinod Thakur's simple language, he calls it, the complacency he calls slackening and submission. Going back to, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is panipat, surrender. Sharanagati, surrender. So the essence, if we go away from the essence, then it becomes complacent, mechanical, or slackening in submission. So the essence is to reinvest in submission, then comes unto what? And what does submission mean? What does it feel like? What is it not? And so forth. So our philosophy is there to remind us when we have a tendency to forget. We have some regulation where we hear regularly and it reminds us what we've forgotten. But that can also become a mechanical or routine, not devotional laden kind of activity, and therefore submission is the essence. So what is it? Submission unto what? Where am I now? Where do I want to go? And all those, also becoming conscious of the sadhana and how we're applying ourselves. And so sadhu sangha helps, more than helps. According to Lord Chaitanya's teachings, it's necessary. We keep good association. Look to those who are setting nice examples and receive from them and serve them.
Marge, I have another question, if that's
Sure.
okay. I was recently studying a section in Uddhava Gita that's speaking of where Krishna is speaking about the Vedas.
About the Vedas.
The Vedas. So, 2 verses, quick ones. He says the transcendental sound of the Vedas is very difficult to comprehend and manifests on different levels within the prana, senses, and mind. This Vedic sound is unlimited, very deep, and unfathomable, just like the ocean. In the next verse, and it's related to the topic of bhakti inherency within the jiva.
Related to the topic of?
Inherency of bhakti in the jiva.
Okay.
So he says, this Krishna's words, as the unlimited, unchanging, and omnipotent personality of Godhead dwelling within all living beings, I personally establish the Vedic sound vibration in the form of Omkar within all living entities. It is thus perceived subtly, just like a single strand of fiber on a lotus stalk. My question is, this establishment that Krishna says the of the Vedic knowledge that's unfathomable and deep within the heart of the living entity in the form of Omkar, is that the same as bhakti being inherent to the jiva?
This topic is something I had planned to speak about Friday evening, but in a simpler form. But, I thank you for bringing it up. And the answer is yes. And there's going to be a handout. I don't know how she's planning to do it. Remember to tell me here? Okay. Either print out or digital, send it out or both. Or I don't know how she's going to do it. But there's reference in Baladev Vidyabhusan's commentary to Vedanta Sutra, where, in short, the commentary establishes, referenced from the Upanishads, that the Omkar is Vishnu. Vishnu is the Omkar. Now, the sound and the person from whom the sound comes, they're fully transcendental, and they're non-different. And it's that, according to Baladev's commentary, and then there's footnotes to the commentary that says what I just said. So that means the syllable, the Omkar, within it rests all the Vedas. The Vedas then are expanded, or whatever, because they're eternal. They're not like once upon a time they weren't there, but they're expanded by the personality of Godhead, who then imparts them into the heart of Brahma, et cetera, et cetera. But it's already there. So back to your question, is this indicating the inherency of bhakti within the living entity? Yes. And that Omkar is the Vedas. The Omkar is that from which this little handout is going to say, and from the Omkar everything comes. The whole cosmic, the as above, so below, the below comes from the as above. The as above is the Omkar. However, there's another second document that's going to be passed out, hopefully, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Prabhupada writes that one who chants Om for a prolonged period of time comes to realize that Om is not different than Vishnu. And they become Krishna conscious by chanting Om. Of course, they may not also. Depends upon their association. The knowledge of the Vedas becomes revealed unto such a person. At least some aspect of the knowledge of the Vedas becomes revealed to such a person. And when the Vaishnava contact, or the bhakti element within, comes in contact with bhakti, then fullness of the teachings of the Vedas, or a partial, optional, a partial understanding, incomplete understanding of the Vedas becomes that person's gift or possession. Yes.
I really like this phrase, Vishada Ashaya, in this verse. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to comment
You
on...
wonder if what?
If you'd be willing to comment on thoughts I'm having around Vishada Ashaya. In particular, as we try to cultivate a serious attitude in our own bhakti, the ability or the maturity to
The
hold
ability of
the maturity
maturity.
to hold both a serious internal attitude towards our cultivation.
You got it? I didn't get it. What? I haven't. Acoustics in my ears aren't working well together.
I'm wondering, is this clearer now?
That's a little better, but let's see how it goes. Here he goes. I'm just this old man that's losing hearing. Sorry. Other people can hear, and I have to ask for an interpretation of what they heard, and then they can understand it. It's just me, it's not you.
So it seems that with maturity in cultivating this serious attitude, we can hold both an internal seriousness in our bhakti
Yeah.
and the ability to be extremely soft and flexible with others, whether it's our children or whether it's reaching out to a Western audience.
Yeah. Or anything. People that are crazy. Using parochial traits. Bad. Everyone in the material world. So,
And yesterday you showed that image in the PowerPoint of the woman sitting on the branch and cutting it.
yeah.
So, and you commented that sometimes we go out on a branch.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you would comment on, cultivating this internal seriousness and being extremely relatable and flexible in our outreach and being extremely careful and not going out on a limb. And, where is that? I'm looking for some shelter there. Like, how can I be sure that I'm not sitting on that branch and cutting it myself? I'm going out on a limb.
There are two thoughts in response. One of them we covered yesterday, and that's the introspection. And the introspection is who's at the center. And let's assume that we're not pure devotees yet, and so there's a mix. And so in that mix of Krishna's, I'm trying to have Krishna at the center, but I'm just kind of stuck and I'm at the center. The introspection will help you realign yourself to the real purpose. And that's the essence of bhakti. This is exercising the bhakti muscle again and again and again by the process of introspection. And, along with this same first one is sadhu sangha, that is persons who know you well and can give you feedback when you're veering. Where it's not Krishna is the enjoyer centeredness. It's I'm enjoying, this, whatever this is. It's I'm too much at the center. So how do you deal with reality? Is there's a mix, and we do things like when I was in Atlanta, there was young people, Western people. Where do you draw the line? Same question. Where do you draw the line between music that's kind of contemporary musicality and mantra? Where do you draw the line? Same question, asked differently. So take away the mantra and the musicality has the modes of nature. Ignorance, passion, goodness. And each of those modes has a different effect. That's part of what we're going to discuss Friday evening. Mystery of sound. Music is universal in all cultures. It's just, people make music. And there's modes of nature too. So when you mix the modes of nature with mantra or Vedic sound or something, then you're, it's a mix. because that's where you're coming from and you want to attract people. So how much are you attracted to that music as opposed to the mantra? Is it a tool that's going to trap you? It just matches your mode. So it's introspection and, wise association that can give you feedback. Especially, maybe some of you remember, I don't think you were here at that time. We had this whole exercise, it just topic went and developed into having persons help you find your blind spots. Were you here for that? You were here. Okay. So blind spot means I don't see. But if I have close association, they may see what I don't see. And if the door is open, sometimes people enter even when the door is locked, but if the door is open and you're seeking, what do you see? And what's something that I don't see that you see is my blind spot that would be helpful for me to progress in my steps towards pure devotion. So this is just still the first one. It's introspection with the assistance of persons who know you well. They're not interested in controlling you. They're interested in serving. And if you call upon them, they can also help you. And you look like you're too much interested in the mix and not sufficiently interested in this for the purpose of Krishna. Because you like it. And now I have a license. I have a mixed devotee license. And I'm mixing that which I like with Krishna. That's for the purpose of reaching out. That's just fine. We want to be relatable. At the same time, we want to give the essence. Did you hear Hari Parshad Prabhu's talk? He's right on topic. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, great Acharya. Here's the tradition. Here's the European influence in India today, particularly British, particularly Christian, and modernity and all of that. There's one of his biographies, there's one in modernity. So he was very, very gifted at helping his audience, Bhadralok, understand they're good people, but they're in that mixed position and how to lift them. He was very gifted at that. I mean, he was empowered to do that. So relevant and relatable strategy with the essence of tradition being fully protected. So that's, something that you can do by introspection and by wise association and opening the door, not, with the universe, but opening the door with confidential, trustworthy people. Where are my blind spots? Please help me because I don't want to veer off as I'm trying to be and extend Krishna consciousness in a relevant, relatable way. So the second, I said two, the second is something similar, but it's, following your husband's question, how I want to be purposeful in my own spiritual life, at the same time be suitable instrument for the disciplic succession. So let me not become complacent in primary while I'm involved in the secondary. So that's, your own commitment and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. As long as one's submission does not become slackened, then you can continue on the path. So reinvest in your submission unto disciplic succession and ultimately to Krishna, because that's the one who's going to accept your submission. It's easy to be complacent. It seems natural and comfortable. And it's good to be, in this sense at least, uncomfortable with status quo, or always moving with steps. Not to say you're not, but I'm just responding to your question. You set your GPS, and am I headed from the right direction? Is my purpose the right purpose? Knowing that there's a mix, and I want to get to the unmixed and keep driving.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'm also contemplating on this word serious attitude.
Uh-huh.
So I'm seeking clarification that this serious attitude may look different in different stages.
Of course.
So for like a neophyte, the serious attitude may be that I'm following rules and regulations and sadhana bhakti as sincerely as possible. Would that be doing it with a serious attitude?
That's part of it. That's a nice beginning. And then comes, from her question, the softer side. Be kind to yourself. Which means then you can be kind to others. You're not kind to yourself. Are you going to be able to be kind to others? Not very likely. So, what does being kind to yourself look like while you're striving, following that message you just gave? And to not fall into the trap of complacency. Well, I'm a mixed devotee, and so a little mix is just fine. So we don't become complacent. We continue to strive, recognizing this is the acceptance. This is where I am, and now the commitment to make the next step or the little steps in the right direction and stay with it. So spiritual life doesn't work for lazy people, or say it the other way, for persons who have a serious attitude to the process. They can be accepting of where they're at and continue in a sustained manner over time. Or like Muna Jivana's course, people surrender and then and there's no loss to their full surrender. But how to stay, that's the question you're asking. You go in steps. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam. The verse, this is verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That's Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti. The definition of bhakti. It says what bhakti isn't, and then it says what it is. And it's according to suitability. You apply yourself in that which is pleasing and favorable to Krishna. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. So it's in phases. What is suitable for you today may not be sufficient for tomorrow or 3 years from now. So and how to stay with that? That's what the serious application means. The purpose of this life, this human form of life, me in this human form of life, not just I want out of here, this is a crazy place. Let me make progress towards where it's not crazy. Not just the liberationist idea, but the pleasing Krishna idea. Loving purpose of life. So lock into it and cultivate it as you can and stay with it. And refresh from time to time, or regularly or all the time. Just refresh. Where am I? Is this appropriate? This suitable? Be ready to clean the clutter and to move forward. That's the more?
Maharaj, I have a question from Queen Kunti's prayers. So I find it confusing. So we hear of pure devotees, they, for them, everything is spiritual. So when Queen Kunti asked to sever the ties from the, from both sides of her family, it all, to me, it seems like she's making a distinction between, material and spiritual.
Well, okay, go ahead with your question.
No, so I just find that, confusing that she's making that distinction.
Well, she's taking the position that she's one of us. Meaning, we've got one foot in two different boats. The material and the spiritual. Trying to cross the river. She actually doesn't have one foot in two different boats. So she does, so the material portion of that affinity for her sons and for her father and her father's family, which she's part of. She's part of both families. As if she's one of us. And the application to you is easy because we have one foot in two different boats. Everything is spiritual. My kids are pure devotees. My husband's a pure devotee. All my friends are pure devotees. My neighbors are pure devotees. The tree in my front yard is a pure devotee. And seeing everything in relation to Krishna, right? The material portion. Srila Prabhupada ki